NATO's 5% GDP plan, will it change world security or shake the economy? Imagine a late-night debate in the parliament of a small European country. On one side, the public is asking, where will the money for hospitals, schools and jobs come from? On the other side, the defense minister stands up and says, if we don't spend on weapons, cybersecurity and air defense today, the price of our freedom tomorrow will be even higher than this. Then, a file is placed on the table stating that NATO countries will have to spend 5% of their GDP on defense and security by 2035. The fear starts right here. Because this isn't just about a military budget, it could be a decision that changes the economy, taxes, welfare, politics, and global power balance for many countries. And the curiosity is, why is NATO taking such a big step all of a sudden, and why might its impact be felt as far as India? NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is considered the most powerful military alliance in the world. It has 32 member countries, including America, Canada, and many European countries. NATO's greatest strength is its Article 5, which simply means that if one member country is attacked, it will be considered an attack on all members. This collective defense is the backbone of NATO. But after the Ukraine war, NATO realized that future security cannot be saved by old military planning alone. War is no longer fought just with tanks and missiles, but also with cyber attacks, drones, satellites, artificial intelligence, misinformation, and supply chain disruptions. In June 2025, a NATO summit was held in The Hague, Netherlands, and it was here that the allies took a major investment pledge. According to NATO's official declaration, members committed to spending 5% of their GDP annually on core defense requirements and defense and security-related spending by 2035. At least 3.5% of GDP will be for core defense needs and NATO capability targets, and 1.5% of GDP will be for broader security needs, such as critical infrastructure, cyber defense, civil preparedness, innovation, and the defense industrial base. This decision is considered historic because previously, the benchmark of 2% of GDP for defense spending was a major topic of discussion for NATO members. Many countries used to struggle even to reach that target. But now, the goal of 5% is much larger than that old target. This means that in the coming years, Europe and Canada might have to significantly increase their defense budgets. NATO has also asked members to provide annual plans to show how they will move toward this goal in a credible and gradual manner by 2035. Now the question is, why did NATO need to do this? The biggest reason is the Russia-Ukraine war. After the invasion of Ukraine, Russia sent a message to Europe that conventional war is no longer history but a reality. For decades, Europe had assumed that large-scale ground battles probably wouldn't return. But in Ukraine, artillery, missiles, drones, trenches, cyber warfare and energy pressure were all seen together. For NATO, this was a warning that if Russia remains a long-term strategic threat, then Europe should not rely solely on America's security umbrella. The second reason is American politics. America has been the largest military spender in NATO, but for the last few years there has been constant pressure from Washington that European allies should bear the burden of their own security. During Donald Trump's era, this pressure became even more open. The message was clear that America would not pick up the entire bill for Europe's security every time. Therefore, NATO's 5% plan is not just a military decision, but also a signal of burden sharing. Europe will now have to invest more money in its defense industry, ammunition production, air defense systems, drones and military readiness. This 5% will not be spent only on tanks and guns. The 3.5% for core defense means soldiers, weapons, ammunition, ships, aircraft, air defense logistics training and military capability. But the 1.5% portion shows the picture of future war. It could include areas like cybersecurity, critical infrastructure protection, ports, railways, fuel networks, space systems, artificial intelligence, quantum technology, supply chain resilience, and defense innovation. In other words, NATO is saying that war will now happen not just on the front line but also in data centers, satellites, power grids, and communication networks. This is where the story of the world economy begins. Spending 5% of GDP on defense and security is not easy. Many European countries are already struggling with problems like an aging population, healthcare costs, pension burdens, inflation, and slow growth. If defense budgets increase very rapidly, governments will either have to increase taxes, resort to borrowing, or cut back on welfare, education, infrastructure, and social schemes. It will be a major question for the public as to why so many weapons are being bought during peacetime. But NATO's logic is different. NATO says that today's preparation is tomorrow's security. If deterrence is strong, the enemy will think 10 times before attacking. There is also an economic angle to defense spending. When countries spend on weapons, drones, cyber systems, and defense manufacturing, the domestic defense industry gets orders. Jobs can be created, technology development can accelerate, and Europe's industrial capacity can increase. But the risk is that money for military spending could be diverted from productive social investment. Therefore, this debate is not just security versus economy, but a debate of short-term pain versus long-term protection. For some countries, this target will be very difficult. In countries close to Russia, like Poland and the Baltic states, there might be more political support for increasing defense spending because the threat is at their doorstep. But in Spain, Italy, Belgium, or many parts of southern Europe, the public mood might be different. There, people might ask how spending 5% of GDP on defense is right, if the economy is slow, youth unemployment exists, and public services are under pressure. Reports from Reuters and others also highlighted the concerns of countries like Spain that the 5% target could conflict with welfare priorities. This plan will also have a hidden effect on the global arms market. When NATO countries increase defense purchases, the demand for weapons, missiles, air defense systems, semiconductors, drones, satellites, and cyber tools could rise rapidly. This will benefit defense companies, but the global demand for raw materials, electronics, and critical minerals could also increase. Sectors like rare earths, lithium, titanium, semiconductor supply chains, and advanced chips will become strategic. This means defense spending will not only change army budgets, but also intensify global manufacturing and technology competition. The message is clear for Russia. NATO wants to show that after the Ukraine war, the alliance is not becoming weaker, but more prepared. However, Moscow could also see this as a provocation. When one side increases defense spending, the other side also justifies a military buildup. This is called a security dilemma. One country increases arms for its own security, but another country sees it as a threat and starts its own arms race. This is why some peace advocates and religious leaders have expressed concern over European military spending. Pope Leo also recently described the rise in military spending as troubling for diplomacy. Now understand the impact on India. India is not a NATO member, but India cannot remain isolated from global security shifts. When NATO increases its defense technology and spending, China and Russia will also adjust their military strategies. China is already increasing its naval, cyber, and space capabilities in the Indo-Pacific. Pakistan is linked to China's military technology and strategic support. In such a situation, India will also have to pay more attention to future warfare areas, cyber defense, drones, AI-enabled systems, electronic warfare, satellite security, and air defense. There is also an opportunity for India. If the world wants diversification in defense manufacturing, India can strengthen its defense industry and increase its role in the global supply chain. Opportunities could arise in areas like Make in India defense manufacturing, private sector participation, the drone ecosystem, missile systems, naval shipbuilding, and electronics manufacturing. But the challenge is that self-reliance in high-end defense technology is not easy. It requires research, testing, skilled manpower, long-term funding, and global partnerships. India will have to balance its strategy very carefully. On one hand, there are old defense relations with Russia. On the other, strategic partnerships with America and Europe are growing. With the rise in NATO spending, Europe's defense priorities will change, and many technologies will be dual use, meaning for both civilian and military use. India will have to see in which technologies it can collaborate, in which areas it needs to increase self-reliance, and on which supply chains it needs to reduce dependence. The biggest takeaway from this entire plan is that the world now seems to be moving out of the peace dividend era. After the Cold War, many European countries kept defense spending low and focused on the welfare state. But the Ukraine war, cyber threats, Middle East tensions, the rise of China, and America's changing foreign policy have changed the security calculation. Now countries are asking, if the future is uncertain, will defense have to become a budget priority again? But questions will remain in the minds of the public. If 5% of GDP goes to defense, what will happen to other priorities? Will healthcare wait times increase? Will the education budget be cut? Will taxes go up? Will there be an impact on inflation? Will this spending provide real security or just increase the profits of arms companies? In democratic countries, governments will have to answer these questions. Public support cannot always be gained just by taking Russia's name. People will have to be shown that the spending is transparent, corruption-free, and truly increasing security capability. It will also not be easy for NATO to implement the 5% pledge. Writing it in a commitment declaration is one thing, taking money out of an actual budget is another. Every country's economy is different, public debt is different, political coalitions are different, and threat perceptions are different. A progress review is planned for 2029, which means in the coming years, we will know which country is moving forward with seriousness and who is just making promises. Research institutions like 𝐼PRI have also called this target a strong political signal, but have drawn attention to its risks and challenges. If this plan succeeds, by 2035, NATO could become a military and technological machine that is better prepared for both traditional and digital war. Europe's defense factories will be busy again. Missile stockpiles will increase. Cyber commands will be strengthened. Investment in AI and drone warfare will rise. Critical infrastructure like ports, railways, power grids, and communication networks will be made part of military planning. This could be the start of a new security era. But if this plan gets stuck in political resistance, divisions within NATO could also increase. East Europe will say the threat is real, increase the spending. South Europe will say the economy is fragile, the target should be flexible. America will say allies must give their share. And the public will ask, where is the diplomacy to stop war? This tension will shape NATO politics in the coming decade. In the end, this story is not just about NATO. It is the story of a world where the definition of war has changed. Now, along with the missile, malware is also a weapon. Along with the tank, data is also a target. Along with the border, undersea cables are also vulnerable. Along with the soldier, the satellite is also in the battlefield. NATO's 5% GDP plan is a preparation for this changing world. But its price will not just be seen in defense budgets, it will also be seen in taxes, welfare, industry, technology, and global alliances. Today, the question is not whether NATO will spend the money or not. The question is whether this spending will make the world safer or start a new arms race. Whether Europe will handle its own security or reduce dependence on America. Whether Russia will consider this deterrence or provocation. And how countries like India will adjust their defense, economy, and diplomacy in this changing balance. One thing is certain, this decision from the Hague summit will not remain locked in a NATO file. In the coming years, when national budgets change, defense factories run, cyber walls strengthen, and global power equations shift, the world will realize that this 5% of GDP was not just a number, but the beginning of a new era.
If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you, because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible. But in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.